New color film stocks hitting the market is something that is worth celebrating. It's been so awesome to see new things pop up, giving photographers who love film new options, especially when it comes to color photography. Color Mission was one of the first in a slew of new film stocks that have hit the market recently, from Gold 200 and 120 to Cinestill's new 400 Dynamic, which should be available to early bird backers pretty soon as of making this video. When I saw that Color Mission was a thing, I knew that I had to get my hands on some. I was so excited, and the example images were just fantastic. They really sold me. I loved the kind of color palette that Adox was bringing to the table here, and I was so excited when I saw this was becoming available. Now I know the story behind this film was a little confusing, but as far as I know, they made the stock in limited runs for pre-order. It was a joint venture with another company that unfortunately went under. But instead of cutting their losses, Adox decided to kind of double down, sell the remaining stock, and then take that profit that they made from selling Color Mission and putting it towards a new color film stock. And I'm gonna get to why that's important in a little bit. And this video is my initial impressions of my first roll of Color Mission 200. And I have to say right off the bat, I absolutely love this stuff. I think it's fantastic. I think it fits really nicely in its own place. It fills a little bit of a gap that Kodak and Fuji don't quite fill with their film stocks. I think it brings a lot of really awesome things to the table, and I think if you get the chance, you should definitely try some out. Initially, I was a little worried. Actually, the stock was only available over in Germany, and the shipping costs were going to be pretty astronomical. So I got a few friends together from our local Discord group, and we did a bit of a group buy. So 6 of us got together, and we split the shipping costs, and it made the price of shipping much more palatable, and it was worth the effort. I'm so glad that everyone, was so excited as I was to put some money towards this new stock. And so far I've seen some of their results, and everyone's been loving the stuff, and the results are fantastic. So shout outs to my NJ Photographers Discord group. I'll put the link down in the description. I shot this first roll with my Canon P with the Voigtlander Nocton 50mm f1.5 lens while walking around at a food festival in Manhattan. I was doing some street photography. There was a big crowd, lots of people. The lighting was very flat, very dull, very dim. There really wasn't any sun out, but I thought it was a good opportunity to see how this film did in that sort of condition. I was exposing the film at around ISO 160, although I kind of underestimated, and I probably should have given it a little bit more exposure considering the lighting conditions. I wasn't using a light meter while I was shooting. I took a couple readings initially and then, guessed from there. It's something that I'm working on and getting better at, but it's taking some practice. So overall, some of my photos here are probably underexposed by about a stop. And I have to say the film handled it pretty well. The dynamic range is definitely there. It's not incredible, but you'll be fine if you accidentally underexpose by about a stop. For me, the best part of this film is the grain. I really like how it is a very grainy film, even though it's a 200 speed film. The grain isn't very muddy looking, it's not messy looking. It really adds a little bit of texture and sharpness to the photos that I quite enjoy. I really find myself wanting either a lot of grain or no grain at all, and I think this teeters just on that side of a lot of grain in where I like it, where I'm enjoying the amount of grain that's in the photos. Especially probably because I underexposed things a little bit, that probably added to that. In terms of color palette, for me this film sits in a cross between like Ektar and Fuji Superia. I think the reds and warm tones are really nice and punchy, very heavily saturated. And so are the greens. The greens in this film are really rich. Often I found with that little bit of underexposure, the shadows leaned a little green. I felt that there was a bit of an overall green cast in some of my photos, but I have seen a lot of examples when this film is exposed properly, it leans a little bit more magenta. And when it comes to skies, this film has really lovely pastel blue skies. It's not too saturated, not too punchy, just a really nice, soft looking blue. And judging by other examples that I've seen with this film from other photographers, it really shines in really good light. I mean, it gets really, really warm when you introduce it to that nice golden hour light, and it is great for taking advantage of that type of light. And again, I think it fits into that Ektar kind of look with the reds and greens of Superia. It's this really nice middle ground between Kodak and Fuji that I think we were all kind of secretly wishing would pop up. The one thing about this film that I think you have to be careful with is skin tones. Although I find skin tones relatively pleasing, I did notice that in some situations, again, especially with a little bit of underexposure, skin tones tend to get a little too red and become a little unnatural looking. I don't find it too distracting depending on the photo, but it's something to be aware of, and it's something that I've experienced. I think this photo of these baskets is a really good example of what I mean when I say that this film reminds me a lot of Ektar. I think the high contrast and punchy reds and punchy oranges is something that you would see on display from something like Ektar as well. I think this photo is another great example of what this film has to offer in terms of color palette. You can see the yellows, oranges, reds, and greens just really on display here, especially in the awnings of the stores. I think this film is at its best when you're including colors like these into your photos. This is by far my favorite photo that I took on this roll, and it might be one of my favorite photos that I've taken in a very long time. Being able to catch a moment like this in this sea of people was just frankly magical. So what do you think? Did you get a hold of some Adox Color Mission 200 for yourself? I hope you did, because it's really good stuff. And I hope that whatever Adox does next, I don't think this film is going to last forever. Frankly, I think this is a limited run and we're not going to see Color Mission again. But whatever they do next, I hope it's, just an improvement on what they already have. I think it's a winning formula in that it fits in that nice middle ground between Kodak and Fuji. It has some really nice grain, and I would really love to see more of it. I would love to see improvements, maybe just improvements on things like quality control and, them really hone in on this kind of look. I think it's fantastic, and I think a lot of photographers are going to love to use it. I know I'm going to. I know I'm going to get many more rolls of this stuff, especially when it becomes more readily available in the United States. So anyway, I'm Zach. That was my first impressions of my first roll of Adox Color Mission 200. Go get yourself some. It's really great stuff. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.